More than 1,500 people charged with crimes in the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots will now walk free after a historic first-day move from President Trump.
Trump signed an executive order to either pardon or commute the sentences of those involved while vowing to dismiss cases that are still in limbo.
It's one of several controversial moves from Trump that we saw on Monday. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joins us to talk about the impact that this could have. Khalif, let's start here. First, Trump said that they'll look at these case by case. J.D. Vance said anybody involved in any of the violence should not be pardoned. And then day one, Trump presidency, we see all the pardons and commutations. What do you make of it?
You asked about the impact. It's crater size. This was a magnitude of an earthquake when he sent the pencil and pen to sign these 1,500 pardons. And he actually also used an eraser. With one swipe, he erased January 6th from happening. So 4 years ago, right there where they were just at a few hours before there, 4 years before there, folks were storming the Capitol. We're not talking about, jaywalking. These were violent crimes. People were hitting officers with poles, crushing them indoors, using barricades to smack and crush officers. I mean, had not the officers responded in the way they did, there probably would have been more violence and more carnage. And so for them to erase it as if it didn't happen, I mean, this is going to send shockwaves, not just in the political field, but in the criminal field, because you talk about the reactive in the rehabilitative portion and the punitive portion of the criminal justice system. Well, if you're telling me that I can go and hit an officer upside the head with a flagpole, if I can take a door and crush you in the door, and then I will have no consequences, and not just have no consequences, because they're not just saying you're free, you can go walk, but that pardon, that commuting of the sentence is now erasing it as if it didn't happen.
Well, and we also have to keep in mind that we have dozens of people from North and South Carolina who were convicted or whose cases are still in limbo here. What does that process look like now that the pardon has happened for the people who are already serving time and for whose cases are still to come? What do people have to do to make that happen?
They don't have to do anything. It's like Thanos. With the snap of his finger, those cases have now disappeared. Wow. I mean, let's be clear. This power is there. In the power of the executive of the president, he is solely vested, and I think our founders wanted to have him vested with that authority, that power to do this. You want someone to be able to say, hey, that wasn't right, that case didn't go the way it should have gone, and because he is the most high elected official in our country, we want you to be able to say, okay, you can go and adjust that. I don't think this is what they intended to happen, because this now has been politicized, because if you rewind it, not to January 20th, but to January 19th, when Biden did just a couple pardons, and I'm not talking about the ones for the folks that were convicted. I'm talking about the preemptive pardons, the ones for Dr. Fauci. Because when I was looking at that, I was like, wait, did Dr. Fauci do something? What's happening? For some of the senators that were connected to the January 6th commission. I was like, wait, were these guys charged? No, it was preemptive. Why? Because Trump had said, I think these folks should go to prison. Anyone that had a connection to investigating the January 6th should go to prison. So when you ask what do those folks that were pardoned need to do, they don't need to do anything. But what did the folks need to do that they even investigated? They needed to protect themselves. So we've now politicized this presidential pardon. Biden on the one side protecting folks that were connected to it. Trump on the other side removing and dismissing and erasing the charges of the folks. And so if you weren't here 4 years ago and you didn't know what happened, if you didn't cover it like we did, if you didn't watch it, if you look back historically and legally, that day didn't happen, which is kind of weird. It actually did.
We all watched it unfold in front of our eyes. Khalif, let me ask you, one of the things that Trump talked about was getting rid of the weaponization of the DOJ. And part of this is removing the pardon, saying, okay, the work that the January 6th committee done, we're throwing it out. What do you worry about next? Because even though he said we're getting rid of the weaponization, would there be any chance that anybody, obviously they've been pardoned, but is there any more action that we're going to see of people who persecuted people involved in January 6th?
Well, what I can tell you is that the weaponization is now just beginning. I mean, it is before, and I don't like that term, so I got to be clear. I don't think it's weaponized. I think that the way our system is created, that the executive branch is there, and while he does put these people in position as a director of the FBI, as someone that is his DOJ, and running those departments, they are autonomous. They are running on their own. I believe that these legal scholars are in those positions and they're looking at the facts of the case and they're going to say, you know what, President Trump, I know you want me to do this, but there's no facts behind it, so I can't charge. I can't go in that direction. I still want to have that belief in the system. But what I can say is the statements are there. And now if he makes a statement saying, I want you to do that, now you have to have people in place that can say, well, hey, there's no facts to support that. Because as attorneys, we have a higher standard. The standard is if you're a prosecutor, you have to avoid prosecuting cases where there are no facts. And so when you talk about folks that were connected to an investigation, They were actually just doing their job. I think Biden already shielded those folks. If you give them those preemptive pardons and you make sure that you can preemptively stop them from being charged with anything going forward, then they have nothing to worry about. But what I can tell you is anyone that was connected, if you were someone that were taking notes, if you were just there listening, I would at least be nervous if you didn't get a pardon from Biden, because you could be in the crosshairs. What I could tell you is cooler heads should prevail. More comments like J.D. Vance's and less comments like just completely allowing anyone to walk free is what should have happened in this situation.
And of course, we're going to see the fallout from this in the coming days and weeks. And as someone who has taught law before, it'll be a really interesting to see how law professors teach what has happened, and historians as well. So, Khalif, thank you so much for weighing in on that.